My best friend, Maya, female 28, and I, female 26, have known each other for ages. She lives alone and is working from home. She has an Etsy shop, and she claims she makes a living with that. I live with my husband and 3 beautiful children, young girls. My husband works over 60 hours a week, and I'm a stay-at-home mom because daycare for 3 kids would be way too expensive. This Saturday, my husband wasn't home, and I really wasn't feeling it mentally, and I needed a day off. I haven't had one in like forever, and my sister invited me for brunch at her club. I knew that Maya would be home. She's always home. I figured that since she's at home, she wouldn't mind helping me out, as it was an extraordinary situation. She never babysits, but I was desperate. I drove my kids over to her house without calling first, because I knew she'd say that she's busy. She always says she's busy during the day, despite being at home and working for herself. She could easily find the time, and I was desperate. I really needed a break. She opened, invited me in, but said she didn't have much time because she was working. I said not to worry. I explained how bad I was feeling and how I really needed a day off, and if she could just stay with the kids for a few hours when I get a breather. She automatically said no. I asked her to understand my position and do what a best friend is supposed to do, help tired mama, but she refused and said she knows nothing about kids and she's working. I said that she can take a break. I dropped the kids' bags on the couch and was about to leave. She shouted stop and told me that if I leave my kids with her, she's calling my husband and CPS. I tried pleading with her, but she was unrelenting. I called her an idiot and worst friend ever, and I went home. I told my husband, and he was angry. He said that being a parent is my job, and I should just suck it up and do it, just like he does his. And if I need time off, we can plan for an hour or something so I can go for brunch. I made a Facebook and Instagram post about this, without names, saying that you find out who your true friends are after having kids. And I think Maya saw it because she called me and told me I was way out of line. She's furious with me now, but I genuinely don't think I did anything bad. I was desperate and thought my best friend would help. Was I really the idiot here? I feel kind of bad, but at the same time, she doesn't feel bad for me, so why should I feel guilty? LOL. You are the idiot. Hire a babysitter. She was absolutely 100% correct, calling CPS, that you were going to abandon your children. CPS should still be called, to be honest. Sounds like there's more going on here. Imagine being the kind of person who thinks a brunch invitation constitutes an extraordinary situation, and that means you need unlimited free time. Wow, you just really suck, huh? You're so entitled and think that you're more important than your friend. Your friend decided not to have kids to this point. You decided to have 3 in close succession. That's not her problem or her responsibility. She was a good friend to even bother to try to make an excuse and seem busy. She would be within her rights to simply say, I do not want to watch your children. You went over already knowing she didn't want to do this for you. That makes you the bad friend, and you have no respect for her or her work. She's best to be rid of you. Maya is a fantastic person for standing up to you. You clearly don't respect her time, job, or desire not to look after children. This is all just entitlement. You chose to be a stay-at-home mom, not Maya. Get therapy and stop making other people responsible for your kids. No one owes you babysitting, best friend or not. I would be pulling my hair out too if I had 3 kids by 26, but that was your choice. I have a daughter, Olivia, who turned 19 in September. She lives with me and her dad, my husband. I held a small family birthday party for Olivia in our house with decorations, music, and food. Here's where I could be the idiot. Olivia is vegan by her own choice and has been vegan for 2 years. My husband and I aren't vegan or vegetarian, but we respect Olivia's choices. And to be honest, Olivia has helped us widen our food palates and be more adventurous. Before her birthday, I looked in almost every grocery store and couldn't find a vegan birthday cake. So for Olivia's 18th birthday, I got her a vegan cake from this small business in our city, but it's unfortunately no longer in business. I thought I had a bright idea and decided to make Olivia a fruit platter with all her favorite fruits instead. Olivia was really pleased with it and said I should do another one for her next year. Well, my sister-in-law, Carrie, 32, told me that what I did was cruel and that everyone deserves a cake on their birthday. She accused me of calling Olivia fat and said I should have baked her a cake. I told Carrie that Olivia's happy with it, so why does it matter? Carrie said that I'm a lazy parent. No one else said anything but Carrie, and my husband's other siblings have been a bit cold to me lately, so I'm wondering if what I did was wrong. I admit I could have baked Olivia a cake at home, but I just liked the fruit platter idea. Not the idiot. It wasn't your sister-in-law's birthday, so she can shut up about it. Did your daughter look happy with the party? Because hers is the only opinion that matters. I'm guessing the root of sister-in-law's issue is she wanted cake for herself. Everyone deserves a cake on their birthday. Does she not know that some people don't like cake? Does she not know that some people like cake and would prefer a fruit platter? Heck, I'm pretty sure I had pistachio pudding for my birthday at least once. It doesn't always need to be cake. You did something very thoughtful for your daughter, and she liked it. That's all that matters. I'm sorry people in your life are being cold to you over a cake. Do these losers have nothing better to do than whine about dessert being served at a single event? Jesus, tell them to get some perspective on life and to worry about things that are an issue. I'd feel absurdly disappointed if I attended someone's birthday and there was no cake. My inner child would not be happy about that at all. But that's the joy of being an adult. You get to buy yourself a cake anytime you want. No tantrum needed. I feel a bit sorry for OP's sister-in-law if she can't self-soothe long enough to get to the supermarket. My 43 female daughter Laura, nearly female, has been struggling to focus on her studies with her brothers, Kyle, teen male, and Ryan, tween male, constantly disrespecting her privacy. A few days ago, she was yelling for Kyle to come to her room. I asked her what had happened. She explained that Kyle flipped all her items upside down, so I called Kyle and told him to flip everything right side up. Yesterday, Ryan was running into her room and kept stealing her stuff while she ran to get them back. On the night of the same day, Laura was trying to sleep when the brothers suddenly barged in and ran through it, resulting in her screaming at them to stay out and close the door when she was asleep, to give a few examples. Today in the morning, her father, 48, told her he didn't like the way she was screaming. She said she was trying to sleep, and her brothers were making all kinds of ruckus. He told her that they were kids and they would learn. She said that they would never learn, and the only way for them to learn is to install locks for her room. He didn't want her to, and they went back and forth on this until she threatened she'd move out as soon as she became financially independent, since she wasn't going to wait for them to mature, and they should already know how to respect her privacy. To which he said to wait to include me in the conversation. I overheard, and when she went to her room, I told her she wasn't going to have locks set up because she already wasted her time without the need for locks, and I don't want her to fail. Laura said that they were never going to listen without them, and I told her that I would make sure they wouldn't enter her room. This evening, I heard her shouting for me. We were all in the living room. Her father explained what was going on. Laura said she was making Kyle tea when he went to her room. She said that she would tell on them, and he said that if she promised not to tell, he and Ryan would never go into her room again. She didn't say anything, so they ran upstairs to her room again. I told her she had no right to complain since she always sleeps in Kyle's room after school. Her brothers all agree, and Laura calls all of us the worst. None of us are allowed in her room, and she leaves. She comes back after a minute and says that she only sleeps in Kyle's room because he never uses it aside from sleeping at night, and if he were to use it for studying, then she would never go in there. Meanwhile, they constantly disturbed her, messed with her stuff, and made her unable to sleep last night. I told her if they ever went into her room, she needed to go to me. Then Kyle started saying they had the right to go into her room while she was trying to sleep because they were playing. Laura yelled at him, then said that she couldn't wait to move out soon, so she no longer had to deal with them. She also called me an awful mother for not giving her bedroom locks. Why on earth are you allowing your younger children to act like that? Messing their sister's things and disrupting her study time is bad enough. Running through the room when she's sleeping is even worse. You are the idiot for allowing this bad behavior and not getting a lock. My parents locked my door when I was 9 to keep my younger siblings out of my private space because they respected me enough not to let their children destroy my belongings. OP is actively teaching all her kids that women's boundaries don't matter. Hope the daughter can see that. But if not, OP shouldn't be surprised if the daughter ends up in a toxic or abusive relationship, the type of partner that minimizes, trivializes, and gaslights. After all, OP is teaching her it's more important to be quietly agreeable than to feel safe and heard in her own home. Obviously, your sons are the favorite, and your daughter's just expected to deal with their lack of boundaries and bad behavior. Is she your stepdaughter by any chance? Because it sounds like how you're treating her. Don't be surprised if your relationship continues to deteriorate as time goes on, because you and your husband treat her like her feelings don't matter, and by extension, she doesn't. Only the boys matter. She sees it. She feels it. She will eventually go no contact with you because of the hurt you've inflicted on her. This is so much more than a lock on a bedroom door. I'm sad that you can't see that. Do better when you have the chance. You're running out of time. My mom and my wife have a pretty awkward relationship. I feel like they flat out hate each other, but they try to fake it for me. One of my wife's boundaries is she and our children will never spend Christmas with my mom. I could if I wanted to, but obviously I'm not going to leave my kids on Christmas, so we just don't see my mom. It makes me a little sad, but it isn't a huge deal. My mom's never said anything about it, so I thought we were all good. But my wife recently brought up how she finds it weird that my mom never buys her grandchildren Christmas presents. I said, to be fair, she doesn't see them that often, probably doesn't know what they're into, and never sees them over Christmas. My wife said it's still weird. She pointed out how our grandparents never spend Christmas with us, as they're old and live out of state, but still mail gifts. She said it isn't about the gifts, but the principle, and that my mom has no excuse, as she's very financially comfortable. She asked me to gently bring it up, and I said no. I said it's embarrassing, and I'm not going to go and beg my mom for Christmas gifts, especially when we aren't willing to spend the holidays with her. I feel it comes off as greedy and entitled. My wife is currently furious with me. Am I the idiot for refusing to ask my mom to buy Christmas presents for my children? Not the idiot. Your wife is, though. First, she's the one who decided y'all will never spend Christmas with your mom. Does she have a good reason, and was there a discussion? If she's treating your mom in that way, why would your mom then send gifts? Does she send one to your mother from all the kids? She sounds greedy and entitled. I cannot believe the audacity of your wife. Is she always so selfish and greedy? You need to draw this line in the sand. How can your wife even be furious with you? Your wife created this situation and then gets mad that mom respects the boundaries she demanded? Your mother very likely does not feel comfortable in the lives of her grandchildren. Why would she buy gifts when it's clear that she's not welcome? My mom is difficult, and I can understand why my wife doesn't want to spend Christmas with her. My mom isn't a warm, fuzzy grandma, and mother-in-law is. She's also a selfish host. For example, eating food in front of us when there wasn't enough for everyone, deciding she was over it and trying to go to sleep. I think she's a good person deep down, but spoiled and difficult. Also, the family she married into was awful, and she invites them. We usually give my mom something small and edible through the mail, and she only gives gifts for me. She gives them discreetly, and I'm entitled to maintaining a relationships outside of my family. It's extremely weird your mom buys you gifts, but not the children. Based on your comment, your wife has valid reasons to avoid your moms for the holidays. However, I think it's unnecessary for your wife to care if your mom is gifting the kids or not. Your mom is an idiot for punishing your kids for whatever issues she has with your wife. I don't know. I find it weird that you think it's normal for your mom to gift you and ignore your children. You are the idiot, OP, and your mom for your behavior and trying to hide the truth of the situation. Your poor wife and kids. It's super weird and alienating that your mom is buying Christmas gifts for you and ignoring the rest of your family. And she's a deeply inconsiderate hostess. Honestly, the gifts aren't the issue. I bet the lack of a relationship and lack of thought and effort towards the kids is. I wouldn't force the kids to spend time with someone that doesn't make them feel welcome. I, female 30, have a daughter, Hazel, pre-tween. She uses a manual wheelchair to get around. Hazel's father hasn't been in the picture since she was a toddler, and I now have a fiancé, Mark, male 34. Mark and I have been together for a total of 3 years. He has a son, Eddie, a teen male. We all live together in a house that I own in my name, which I know is a very fortunate position to be in with the housing market. I inherited the house from my late dad. We have quite a large yard, and the other day Mark and Eddie were doing some yard work early in the morning. Hazel was still sleeping, and I went outside to see what they were up to. That's when I noticed that Eddie was using Hazel's wheelchair to move bags of grass cuttings and dead plants. I immediately stopped him and asked him what on earth he was doing with her wheelchair. Eddie sheepishly told me that Mark told him to use it and that it would be fine. So, after taking the things off my daughter's wheelchair, I asked Mark if this was true. Mark admitted that he took the wheelchair to use it to move stuff. He said that Hazel was still sleeping and that they weren't going to use it for long, so he didn't think it would matter or that she would even notice. I started raging at Mark and yelling at him and saying that what he did to my daughter was disrespectful and that he has no right to go and take her things, let alone something that she needs to move around, and told him he was acting like a total idiot. Mark apologized, but I was still royally angry and went back inside the house and didn't say anything to him. Later that day, he said I was wrong for my reaction and that I was mostly out of line, especially for acting that way in front of his son. I don't think I was out of line, but Mark is expecting an apology. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You were right in the first place. He disrespected you, not the other way around. A wheelchair has one purpose. It isn't a wheelbarrow, a dolly, or a wagon, and it wasn't his to use for any reason. Not only that, but it's your house, and you aren't married yet. He overstepped, period. And now he's trying to brute force intimidate you into backing down. If you really, really like him, explain it very slowly to him, and that his only choice is to signify his understanding and acceptance of your rules in your house. Or toss him for carelessly using your daughter's necessary medical equipment as a yard implement. Also, what if the wheelchair broke? I was recently shopping for wheelchairs, and that is expensive medical-grade equipment. It should never be used as a wheelbarrow. Never mind how disrespectful it is to your daughter. Does your fiancé have any video games or records? Try using one as a dinner plate and see what he says. Yeah, that's like using somebody's prosthetic hand to unclog a drain pipe. Unacceptable. Your fiancé needs to learn and teach his son to respect your daughter, her body, and her needs, because using an expensive piece of her personal medical equipment for yard work is beyond disrespectful. It's a major red flag that even now you've explained why it's wrong, he expects you to apologize to him. Not sure he'd still be living in my house after that. I-49 male will keep this as short as possible, but basically, my stepdaughter Leah, 25, wants to marry her boyfriend Dylan, 25. I had the money to pay for the wedding, so what could possibly go wrong? Well, her deadbeat father, 54, who has never been in the picture her whole life, never took care of his daughter, and never paid child support, according to my fiancé, wants to walk her down the aisle. My stepdaughter was never rude to me and always showed respect, so I always showed respect for her and bought all the necessities she needed, maybe too much. Now looking back, I am just a darn ATM. I was paying $200K for her wedding, so about $257K, and asked for my mother and Leah's 2 siblings to receive invitations since they are her siblings. The invitations came around, and my stepdaughter informed me that she didn't want any children at her wedding, but that seemed odd to me because my fiancé's sister's children were invited, so I asked Leah why weren't her own siblings invited, and she said it was just a mistake. Also, the wedding was over 400 people, and yet my own mother couldn't be invited? Probably a red flag, but we moved on. A few days later, Leah's soon-to-be in-laws came to my house for dinner, and they asked her who was going to walk her down the aisle. My stepdaughter announced it was her deadbeat clown of a father. She always told me I would walk her down the aisle, and then proceeded to lie and humiliate me in front of the guest. My fiance was in shock, but Leah kept talking about how they had been in touch and that he was her true father. At that point, I lost it. I announced that her real father could pay for the wedding. He can't, LOL, since I was just a check for my stepdaughter. Leah started screaming at me, and all the guests left the house. My fiance wasn't too happy, stating that I humiliated her in front of Leah's soon-to-be in-laws, and they spent a year planning, so I can't cancel. I said I wasted $200K on an ungrateful brat and spewed insults toward her father. So, am I the idiot for not paying for my stepdaughter's wedding? Edit. I want to clarify a few things briefly. I was never married to my fiance, hence why I called her fiance. I will admit this. I didn't want to marry my fiance because 20 years ago, I was destroyed financially. I survived because my father gave me a better position at work, and I got his inheritance a few years later. While I wish I still had a father figure, I thank him for saving my life. I've been with her for 15 years and raised Leah as my own child, but I guess I'm an idiot because I promised her I would marry her, but now I feel no regret I never did. OP, you are not the idiot, but who the heck pays $275K on a wedding? That's a ridiculous amount of money to spend on a wedding. What a colossal waste of money. You're blowing 4 times the average annual family income so that a couple of ungrateful 20-somethings can throw a party? Geez, donate 10% of that to a food bank and help someone who will appreciate it. If he's throwing away $200K on a wedding, just imagine how much he's spent on her and why she's so entitled and such a brat. The fact she's comfortable taking that money from you, but doesn't see you as the primary father figure in her life, heavily indicates that she and your fiancé are taking advantage of you. You aren't married to your stepdaughter's mother yet, and they want you to splash $257,000 on a wedding, which is insane. Please don't do this. You can do whatever you want with your money, but this is just a big red flag. $257,000 is a lot of money. Why waste it on your stepdaughter, who clearly doesn't understand what a real dad is? You are a real dad to her, not her deadbeat father. Also, what if you paid for this wedding? Then you and your fiancé break up, and then she and her daughter want nothing to do with you. It's a really difficult situation. Petty person here. If you paid for it and can't get a refund, I would still cancel the order or change the delivery address. Catering's paid for and no refund? Cancel or change the delivery address to a local shelter. Flowers paid for? Change the address to a local hospital. She sees you as an ATM. Update. Am I the idiot for not paying for my stepdaughter's wedding? If you want a quick summary, here it is. I'm refusing to pay for my stepdaughter's wedding, as she lied to me that I would walk her down the aisle, and that instead, she told her in-laws at dinner, while I was present, that she wants her deadbeat father to walk her down the aisle, who my fiancé also claimed was verbally abusive and refused to pay child support. Lots of crap has happened in these past few days, and we have much to talk about. I probably should have mentioned this in my previous post, but I had nothing to do with the planning, nor did I want anything to do with the planning. It was all my fiancé and Leah's planning. Many of you were concerned with the price of the wedding, and you guys made me concerned too. Some of you requested I ask my fiancé about the wedding planning, and I concluded that I've just been a check to my fiancé and stepdaughter this entire time. In the planning, the actual wedding itself would cost $40K, which I can understand, as there are over 400 guests and we're South Asian. The rest, $160K, was spent on a honeymoon to Dubai. The list of people. It contained my fiancé and her sister's family, Leah and her man Dylan, along with his parents. And this just disgusts me the most, her deadbeat father. At that point, I went ballistic. I never agreed to pay for the honeymoon, only the wedding, and a honeymoon should be for the newlyweds. But my fiancé said this so calmly, without any regret, that she expected me to be okay paying for other people's holidays because we're family. How could she possibly be sane to think it was a rational idea to invite the man who she claimed refused to pay child support and was verbally abusive? I lost my cool and I told her that she and her daughter took advantage of my money and was selfish to leave her 2 young children alone with me. I work 45 hours a week at my business and decided it would be a good idea to invite her deadbeat ex, who tried to lay his hands on me years ago. She responded by saying that it was Leah's idea. I then replied, "You and your daughter have 7 days to get out of my house." She started her circus, and there was no going back. I then began moving forward, changing all of my card pins so no more of my money could be used, and started the refund process. I contacted the venues, and they were nice and offered a refund, but it'll take a couple of working days, maybe weeks, for a refund. As for the tickets to Dubai, well, let's just say I'm lucky, as I was able to refund the tickets, $75K, since I was still in fair conditions while the tickets were unused. It hurts so much thinking how these people, who haven't worked as hard as I have, thought it would be a good idea to use my money on a first-class ticket to Dubai. My fiancé told her daughter that I refunded the wedding, and she didn't take it well. I won't go into too much detail, as I've talked long enough, but I was petty at the end and said that her real dad could pay for it. This has been a crap show of a couple of days. I can't see my 2 young children every day now, and I've lost my fiancé. However, some good news. My oldest son, 25, gave his newborn son my surname, which made me smile. At least someone appreciates me. Anyway, I'll take my kids to Dubai. Who doesn't love petty revenge? $200K for a wedding and honeymoon? Holy entitled bridezilla balls. So glad you looked into it. The silly girl has screwed herself over being a greedy entitled person. I'm super petty with people like them. Take your kids on a lovely trip to Dubai. $160K for a holiday? So they were all going to Dubai, including the ex-husband, leaving you and the 2 younger children at home? What? Your fiancé and her family must have thought they hit the jackpot. Glad you nipped it in the bud. I'm sure fiancé's now realizing she played her hand too far. So inconsiderate. This is Matrix-level bullet dodging. Honeymoon and the whole family's going? It's a family trip, bruh. Use some of that money on a lawyer and watch your ex crash and burn due to her own greed. I'd block anyone but the ex, and that's just so you can discuss the kids. I suggest a DNA test. Dollars to donuts, ex is banging him. You're so not the idiot, it's amazing. Screw those crappy people, dude. You deserve far better. Final update. Am I the idiot for not paying for my stepdaughter's wedding? I've gotten petty revenge on my stepdaughter and ex-fiancé by going on their dream holiday with my kids. My ex and her daughter picked a really good place to have a honeymoon. Shame it didn't work out too well. I've had the time of my life with my loved ones while they begged for forgiveness despite lying to me. Firstly, as soon as I kicked my ex and her daughter out of my house, they went to social media to accuse me of controlling them with my wealth and being petty over canceling the wedding because of small issues. But they didn't include the fact that I never agreed to pay for a honeymoon. However, my ex has changed her mind quickly, and now she's begging me to take her back. My ex's side of the family is sending me threats, but I really don't care. Secondly, I lost about $2,000 in total on refunding wedding stuff, which I believe is, of course, expensive, but overall a win, considering how I initially predicted I would lose $15 to $20K. I thank my ex and her daughter for not spending $200K on a wedding, but on plane tickets to Dubai. They saved me lots of money. Thirdly, my stepdaughter somehow found this post. She is truly a hypocrite for suggesting that I should take down my post when she has a fake Facebook post blurting false facts. Fourthly, My kids are staying with me, and they want to stay with me long term. My ex and her daughter went from a luxurious, lavish lifestyle to a cheap apartment, and my kids want to stay with me as long as they can, which is a problem I need to solve since I work many hours. Finally, Leah and Dylan broke up because false promises of a nice wedding and honeymoon to Dubai are all gone. Her now ex-fiance accused her and my ex of theft. I may have told him and his family about what they planned and other things. I've truly got lots of respect for Dylan. He completely understood my perspective, and I can't thank him enough. My stepdaughter and my ex came into my house, thanks to my younger children opening the door for them, and it turned into a shouting match that ended with me threatening to call the cops. They left the house blaming me for everything, and I said, "Get your real dad to pay for the wedding and honeymoon." I also told them that I was going to Dubai with my kids, and they didn't take that well. I wished I could cut off my ex, but unfortunately, she is the mother of my 2 children. I forgot to mention that my ex's boyfriend came to my house, half intoxicated, and said that I was using my wealth to do whatever I wanted. And he said in his intoxicated British accent that he was shagging my bird. So I'm definitely getting CCTV. Even if my ex was actually having an affair, she isn't my problem anymore. She can go be with that intoxicated freak and live her consequences. This surely is the final update, but if it isn't, then it's a lawsuit next time. OP, you're a stronger man than me. Kudos for how you've handled this. I would have gone completely scorched earth. They have no one to blame but themselves for the way they've handled this entire situation and what life has in store for them. Live your life with your kids as best you can, and don't let those toxic dumpster fires try to twist things to them. The moment you said the deadbeat dad was invited on the honeymoon, I knew immediately that he and your fiancé were having an affair. Sorry for all of this, but good on you for not taking that nonsense. They made their bed and they can sleep in it. Like, have a bit of respect for someone who's paying for your lavish lifestyle. Having people who have narcissistic traits is the worst thing ever, from my experience. You really dodged a bullet on that one. Go for sole custody of your kids. I, 32 female, have an autistic child, Alex, young grammar school age. Due to a family emergency, we had to fly to a different country, and the flight was quite long, 6+ hours. Due to Alex's condition, I usually try to pack some food for them to eat, as Alex is a very picky eater and has a full-on meltdown if hungry. Unfortunately, one of the foods Alex likes is peanuts. The other is a very rare flavor of crisp and a chocolate of a specific brand. On top of that, I usually have other foods like puree for Alex in my bag. As I mentioned, we only had to fly due to a family emergency, and nobody in my family agreed to watch Alex in my absence, so I had to take him with me. On our way back, the airline lost our luggage, so I couldn't get proper food for Alex in between the flights. I bought a large bag of peanuts so they had something to eat. We had a special meal ordered for Alex, too, but for some reason, the crew gave it to someone else on the plane, so there was nothing for Alex to eat except peanuts. They had nothing to replace it with. At the start of the flight, an announcement was made for nobody to eat peanuts due to someone with an allergy present. After the takeoff, I asked the flight attendant where the person with allergies was located so we could sit in different ends of the plane. The flight attendant refused to answer, and after Alex's food hadn't arrived, I had no choice but to let Alex have the peanuts to prevent a meltdown for the next few hours. The flight attendant wasn't happy and tried to stop me, but I reminded her that they left my child without her meal and gave it to someone else. After the landing, a couple sitting a few rows behind me called me an idiot for putting their lives in danger. Even when I tried to explain what had happened, when I was venting to my sister later, she agreed with them. Am I the idiot for letting my child eat peanuts when someone was allergic to them on board? You are the idiot. The airline sucks too, but we can all agree that a meltdown is much better than an anaphylactic reaction at 30,000 feet. Literal potential death beats the meltdown of your child, OP. I also have an autistic child who loved their peanut butter sandwiches. When both my two were younger, I never allowed them to take any nut product out of the house due to others who may have allergies that we come in contact with. You thought that your child's comfort and you not having to deal with a meltdown was more important than possibly killing a fellow passenger and the plane maybe making an emergency landing. Well done. Learn to do better next time. I, 19 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 25, for 9 months, and I love him a lot. However, we had a disagreement on Friday night, which made me question our relationship. The two of us went to have drinks at his friend's house, and he wanted to introduce me to some of his friends that I still hadn't met yet. During the night, we were all pretty intoxicated, and we were playing some music. I heard my favorite song and tried to get my boyfriend to dance with me. No one was dancing, just sitting around and talking. But I loved the song and was in a great mood, so I asked my boyfriend to dance. He kept saying no, so I started dancing alone and laughing. Soon another girl who was there grabbed my hands, and we started dancing. I have no sense of rhythm, so it probably looked awful. When we left the house, my boyfriend was really cold with me. I asked him why, and he said that I'd embarrassed him in front of his friends by the way I acted. He said he just wanted me to act normal and that I'd acted out for attention. I feel so hurt by what he said, but also guilty. I can see why it would be embarrassing if your girlfriend started dancing like a maniac out of nowhere. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. More people should dance joyfully to their favorite songs. You weren't embarrassing. He chose to be embarrassed. Don't let him muffle your joy. Ask yourself if this is a one-off, or is he frequently embarrassed by you? Your dancing hardly seems like justification for the frigid shoulder. You should rethink your relationship if he doesn't find your occasional goofiness endearing. I dulled my sparkle for my boyfriend of 5 years. Everything I did and all the parts of my personality he didn't like came back. No one else in my life had issues with anything he didn't like. It isn't you, it's him. OP, don't shave off pieces of yourself for anyone. If he doesn't like who you are, he's not the right person for you. Even if your feelings feel strong and overwhelming right now, fitting yourself into the space he leaves for you will only harm you and cause you heartache in the future until you do get out. Well, I think no idiots here. If the boyfriend were the one posting, I'd tell him that if he didn't want his girlfriend to act like a teenager, he shouldn't date one. That's not a slam against you being a 19-year-old, just that there's a difference between 19 and 25-year-olds. It's possible the two of you aren't compatible. The issue is the difference in ages and maturity. How is dancing to a song you like acting like a teenager? My wife and I are in our 50s, and I would not think it childish if anyone at any party wanted to dance to a great song. The boyfriend sounds boring, insecure, and toxic, really. Girl, find someone who actually enjoys you, and beware of those who kill your harmless happiness. My parents didn't think a girl needed an education, so they chose not to save any money for me growing up. They had no interest in my education or extracurricular activities. My mom's brother, Brian, grew up in the UK, and he had a different attitude. He would always check in and see how I was doing in school. He bought me my first graphing calculator. Because I wanted to impress him, I worked myself raw to graduate with honors. I was the salutatorian in my school and received a scholarship to my dream school. I didn't even bother telling my parents. I graduated from high school and moved to the West Coast. My parents tried to convince me to come home, but I was quite happy for the first time I could remember. I studied in a STEM field and was recruited before I graduated. My job pays me very well, and I met my husband at work. My brother also attended university and is an engineer. He does well for himself, except he constantly gives our parents money. My brother talked to me recently about how we needed to support our parents in their old age. I said I had no problem contributing to them. However, they would have to ask me for help. I would not volunteer it or send it through him. If they wanted my dirty woman money, they'd have to ask for it. He says they won't because it would shame my father to ask a woman for money. I'm okay with him feeling shame after the way he raised me. My brother says I'm being an idiot, and it doesn't matter, since my parents know where the money will be coming from. I think that my father and mother need to get over themselves. Am I the idiot for telling my brother that if my parents need money, they can ask me for it themselves? Not the idiot. Your parents' patriarchal view of the world is the real idiot here. Also, maybe your brother is a bit for being a patriarchy enabler. He benefited from it a lot. Now it's time for him to pay back mommy and daddy. Your parents want your money, and dad needs to let go of his ego to ask for your help. The heck with dad's shame. You made an incredible life for yourself in spite of their lack of support. Thank heavens for your uncle. I wouldn't help them at all, but I'm petty that way. My parents didn't think a girl needed an education. OP's parents are so open-minded, their brains fell out, if they ever even had a brain to begin with. I don't know why, but I suspect that your brother wouldn't tell parents that OP gave them money. OP, your brother wants to get credit for your money. If your parents' fragile ego is more important to them than being able to pay their bills, that's on them. Honey, you're not being petty. People who treat you poorly your whole life should not expect to get anything positive in return when they need something from you, especially if it's the kind of thing you wouldn't be able to help with if you had been held to their standard and lived to their requirements or rules. If my parents treated me that way, I would not reward them with financial assistance, nor have a relationship with them, because I've learned to put my energy into healthy relationships and walk away from toxic ones. It doesn't matter who the person is. Toxic is toxic. Also, if it's shameful to ask their daughter for money, it would also be shameful to spend their daughter's money. Stand your ground. It seems you're only asking for your parents to give you the respect you deserve. Your hard work is paid off, and your parents should recognize that. If their pride is that important, well, they made their decision. Kudos to Uncle Brian for recognizing and fostering your potential. He probably felt sorry for his sister, who married such a misogynistic sack of crap. My mom and I decided to have a heartfelt conversation while enjoying dinner at a local restaurant. We were discussing some deeply personal matters and needed a quiet, private environment. However, the entire experience got derailed due to a persistent and annoying waiter. At first, the waiter seemed friendly, which we appreciated, but as our conversation progressed, the waiter transformed into an annoying pest. They kept interrupting us, demanding our attention by asking how the food tasted, attempting to upsell us on various items, and hovering around our table. Their constant interruptions were becoming incredibly grating. At one point, I decided to take a stand. I politely, albeit firmly, asked the waiter not to come back to our table unless we explicitly signaled them. I explained that our conversation was important and that their persistent interruptions were disruptive. They seemed taken aback, but they did give us some space for a brief period. However, the waiter apparently complained to the manager about my request for some peace and quiet. The manager came over to our table to address the situation. While the manager understood, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being treated like the bad guy here. Am I the idiot for telling this annoying pest of a waiter to leave us alone during a serious conversation? Could I have handled this differently? Or was my plea for some understanding and space reasonable, considering the circumstances? You are the idiot, 100%. Needed a quiet, private environment? Then go to one. You went to a public restaurant where someone's job is literally to go to your table throughout your time there. You sound terrible to interact with. I doubt he'd complain to his manager. The manager likely asked why he was avoiding the rude people at that table, as it's his job to watch his tables. And the way you called him an annoying pest? Have some time to reflect. You are the annoying person who chose a public restaurant when needing a quiet, private place. Entitled and rude. What a load of crap. There is no reason for the waiter to keep pestering the patrons, even after they say that they'll beckon the waiter when needed. Nobody goes to a restaurant just to gulp down their food and leave. The whole point of going to a restaurant is to be social, to eat and hang out with someone. If you're a waiter and behave like that waiter in the story, you'd be a super annoying waiter. In Europe, this isn't an issue. The waitstaff takes your order, delivers it, and then leaves you alone to enjoy your meal. You signal them for the check. They hover in the States because they're dependent on tips. Not the idiot. You were polite. I have no idea why the waiter escalated it to his manager. I, 20 female, was invited to my friend's, I'll call her Leah, 20 female, house for dinner last week. And it has led to some weird things. For the background, I have a lot of medical conditions, including asthma and extreme allergies. My friend likes to joke about how fragile I am. My friends and I went out 2 months ago. I didn't bring a purse, so I had Leah hold my inhaler in her purse. At first she said, "Stop joking, I know that's fake." But after I pulled it out and used it, she seemed surprised. She apologized and we moved on. Skip to last week. I was invited to a dinner party at Leah's house. I was so excited. I sent her a list of allergies and told her if she wanted to keep what she was planning on making, I'll bring my own food, no problem. She insisted that her food was fine, and I thanked her. I'm allergic to mushrooms. She made a chicken dish that looked like it had mushrooms in it, but I didn't question her. She watched me take a first bite, and I was right, mushrooms. I spat it out immediately and went into my bag to find allergy medication. I was so angry. Leah asked me what was wrong, and I said I'm allergic to mushrooms, so I can't eat the meal you made. She responded, "I thought you were faking." Not even thinking, I called her a monster, grabbed my stuff and left. I've been getting nonstop texts from people who attended the event telling me I shouldn't have said that after she made me a homemade meal. They think I'm an idiot. Am I? Homemade poison. Yum. Not the idiot. You gave her a list of allergies, and she intentionally put one in the food she served to you. No real friend of yours would do that. I bet my last dollar there was more than just one allergen in what she made. What is it with the rash of people testing potentially life-threatening allergies? Legally, that's considered premeditated poisoning. She's lucky that you're not pressing charges. Yeah, with friends like that, who needs enemies? She wanted you to have an allergic reaction and was watching you. And you were right. She's a monster. The fact that she seems to feel the need to passively aggressively prove that you're lying by intentionally serving you toxic food is concerning. This is not a friend. This is one of those half-wits who think it's all in your head, and they've just got to get you in that gotcha moment to prove it. Stop being friends with her and anyone who sided with her. You don't need her. My husband, 38, and I, 40 female, have been married for 8 years and have a preschool-age son. I work for a regional park district, managing the outdoor recreation/education program. Basically, I work outside 90% of the time. The summer is by far my busiest time of the year, and I routinely work 6 days a week. If I can make it work, I will take a day off during the week to offset my hours because our weekend events are the ones I'm most needed at since they're bigger. I'm salaried, so I don't get overtime. This is not new. I've been in this position since before my husband and I got married. He knows how busy I am this time of year. Since our son was born, my husband has gotten increasingly grumpy during this time of year because he obviously has to be more responsible for our son on weekends when I work. We've thought about this many times because he feels like I should talk to my bosses about getting other people to take over some of my weekend events so he doesn't get stuck with our son alone every weekend. I feel like he needs to suck it up because this isn't new to anyone, and it's only a small portion of the year that my schedule is like this. His argument is that there's nothing he does that leaves me parenting by myself for similar amounts of time, and that there needs to be more of a balance in that area. This past weekend, I had events on both Saturday and Sunday, full 8-hour days outside in the heat. By the time I got home both nights, I was exhausted and just wanted to shower and sleep. I tried to watch a movie with them Saturday night, but fell asleep on the couch. Last night I crashed by 8 p.m. This morning I told my husband I would work from home for a bit in the morning to offset my hours. But after my husband took our son to daycare and I started looking at emails, I changed my mind and took the day off to get some rest and maybe do a few things around the house. I must have fallen asleep on the couch because I woke up to my husband making himself lunch in the kitchen. He regularly comes home for lunch because his office is nearby. I asked him how his day was going and a few other questions, and he kept giving me one-word answers. I asked him if he was okay, and he told me he was tired and felt like he hadn't gotten a break all summer, and it was frustrating for him to come home and see me napping when I told him I was going to work from home. I told him I was still tired from the weekend and decided to take the day off. He said he's tired too, and that I need to start doing a better job of considering his needs as well, instead of just focusing on my own. He said it's not fair for him to work 5 days a week, then be a solo parent all weekend, while all I do is work and sleep. I told him that summer's almost over, so my weekends would free up again soon. But all he said was, since you're rested now, you can pick our son up from daycare. I won't be home for dinner. You are the idiot. Not for the day off. Everyone should get one from time to time. You're the idiot because your husband is 100% parent during every weekend of the summer months, in addition to also having a full-time job Monday through Friday. He's asked you to talk to your boss about getting more people, but you've refused. So I guess this is life for him now. June through August, full-time parent every weekend. Also, all of the household chores on the weekend, cooking, mowing, etc. You've dumped too much on him, and your answer is basically, suck it up. OP works for a regional parks department, and public sector work, getting more people, is not really a thing. Staffing is dictated by funding, not needs, and some uses are legally mandated. That goes double for programming stuff. On top of all that, thanks to how open the public sector is legally required to work, we also have to deal with the bureaucracy is too big and keep costs down BS from the public, which means higher-ups try to go longer without filling positions if they can to show we're saving the taxpayers' money. Talking to her boss won't help. She's not the idiot. Then she shouldn't have a kid. It's time to look for a different job, since this one is no longer feasible with her home life. I feel like if these roles were reversed, that's what we'd hear. If a dude had to work all weekend and then took a day off while the kids were at daycare, I don't think anyone would defend him. Her solution of suck it up isn't a solution. She's not trying to look for solutions. She simply wants him to take it on and not complain. Massive idiot, honestly. Then she shouldn't have a kid? What are you talking about? This is life, dude. Working's not always easy. People work different shifts. Medical people having to work many weekends because there are not enough staff. Retail people in holiday periods. Military being out to sea for months. That's life. This dude is moaning because he has to be a dad for, gasp, 3 months and not even all weekends. He's ridiculous. And so are all of you who are saying that OP's wrong. Give me a break. My dad's stepdaughter's 18 and she's expecting a baby. I don't know much about the circumstances overall. I only know there's no father in the picture for this baby and no paternal family either. Oh, and she's living with my dad and his wife again. So my dad's wife called me up randomly a few days ago and told me that her daughter's friends are not offering to throw her a baby shower, and that as her sister, I'd be the next best person to throw her one because I'm closer to her age group. She told me I had failed her daughter as a sister in the past by refusing to be her big sister and acting like I don't have a responsibility to her. This is where I can make it up to her and get off on good footing as an aunt. I, 23 female, told my dad's wife I would not be throwing her daughter a shower, but she's more than free to, and if I have the time available, I might show up. She told me it wasn't good enough, and I was supposed to be her daughter's big sister, and that she promised her a big sister. I told her she should have adopted an older girl, or found a husband with a daughter who wanted to be a big sister. I told her she married a man whose daughter had no interest in taking on the role, And after 15 years, it was time she accepted that. She told me that my behavior was worse than when I chose to stop going to my dad's house during his parenting time when I was 13. I told her I was okay with that. I thought we were done, but yesterday she called again, and I gave her the same answer, no. She called me an idiot and told me I was hurting her daughter, who was innocent in all of this. Late last night, I got a message from who I assume is her daughter, but I can't be positive since I don't have the girl's number. And she said she was sorry her mom was being pushy, and she was sorry if I hated her, but she would really love it if I wanted to throw a shower with her. She said she could really use a big sister, and she'd always loved me, even if I never loved or cared about her. It made me question if I was too harsh in saying no, because she did hit the nail on the head. She always loved and admired me, while I never loved or cared for her. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You don't call someone and insult them right off the bat to guilt trip them into doing a favor for you. Don't let them walk all over you. It's pretty entitled for them to expect you to throw a baby shower. As the mother who seems to care so much about this, why can't your stepmother host the shower? Harsh or not in your refusal, you shouldn't be guilt-tripped into taking on this responsibility. Exactly. Why doesn't her mother, as a grandmother-to-be, throw her a baby shower? Why are they forcing OP? I do feel bad for OP's stepsister. She's pregnant at 18, and it doesn't sound like she has much of a support system. She's got a tough road ahead. OP, maybe you could try to be a little nicer to the daughter, at least. Even if you don't want to see her as a sister, just treat her like a friendly acquaintance. Why doesn't her mother, as a grandmother-to-be, throw her a baby shower? Because baby's daddy's nowhere to be seen, and if OP agrees to be a big sister/generous aunt, then her father and stepmother can try to persuade her to pick up more of the tab for the baby. Babies, which are very expensive. The mother-to-be needs legal advice and child support, neither of which is OP's responsibility. I guarantee that the unknown number was the stepmother trying to guilt-trip OP. She stopped visiting at 13. She's 23 now. So 10 years? There is no family dynamic. I wouldn't break that distance for a baby shower. People think organizing a baby shower is easy, but baby showers are expensive and can get crazy to organize, especially if your stepmom is a difficult person. You don't owe them your time or your peace of mind.